I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap circles around.
You don't want no smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done made.
Okay then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
According to Jim Jones, he had a bigger impact on Shannon Sharpe's program than Nas. 50 Cent said that everything had changed. But instead of responding with a post or naming names, he posted an old federal transcript on Instagram and let the streets do the arithmetic. At the moment, fans are finding old wiretap recordings. However, it's not only about Nas or ego, since Jim is in the gym talking about diss tracks and shouting back at Rikers as if he were getting ready for a fight. The industry seems to be reminded by 50 who is truly untouchable and the reasons why some people have managed to avoid prosecution. Jim may have begun this to clarify something, but he may have since begun a far more significant item than a song. Jim Jones's mention of Nas always strikes a certain chord because of their past together, which started in 2002 when Nas had a Hot 97 outburst and attacked Cameron, calling his song garbage without clarifying why. This was adequate to put Dipset into full attack mode. That being said, their dispute did not begin yesterday. When Jim Jones jumped in headfirst, it got nasty. On Mixtapes, Dipset made fun of Jim and threatened to slap the Kofi off Nas, which Jim took personally. It's more complicated in songs like We Fly High, and it's more than music, but he maintained the same passion throughout. A year ago, Jim wasn't denouncing Nas, who he has always liked.
I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it, things like that. That was like still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that. Like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before any.
When Fat Joe sought to stir things up after Jim appeared on his podcast with Jadakiss, that admiration quickly turned to hostility.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
That's my young boy.
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Jim was eager to talk about that subject in further detail. So even if it might have been left on the timeline, he wasn't finished yet.
Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Subsequently, he unexpectedly released one of the most reckless takes in modern hip-hop history.
Came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
You know what I mean?
A lot of them know.
Jim didn't hesitate. He doubled down. Jim wasn't just claiming his relevance. He was tying himself up against Nas of Queensbridge, the man behind God's Son, King's Disease, and Illmatic, who is still selling out Madison Square Garden in his 50s.
Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and shit. I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit about the industry. I've been putting on.
Before the dust had even cleared on the podcast, that interview did more than just stir things up. It utterly turned the situation upside down and ignited it. Jim Jones's appearance on Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap showed that he was prepared to take charge. When he appeared on the show alongside Shannon and Chadu Cinco Johnson, He fanned the flames rather than defending the remarks. He began the conversation with the statement that Shannon wouldn't tolerate him.
Question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit.
But many people paused the concert because of his next comment.
More influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that
but listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciate him. He had a little bit of run.
You think Jim has finished comparing resumes, but he adds one more great point. In his opening remarks, he brought up the old rivalry between Dipset and Nas. From the early 2000s, claiming to have defeated Nas, despite being a greater admirer of him. He began sidestepping the topic by praising Nas's dress sense and calling him one of the most stylish individuals ever. But he kept returning to the same conclusion. Nas doesn't have the same influence on the streets as he has.
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
Shannon wasn't having it.
Bro, you been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
y'all
but look how you dress. Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. And the things that we, listen,
I can be in the church house. You can't Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Jim became so agitated that he began making fun of Shannon's attire in the meantime.
A bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Ain't nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. Nobody from the Diplomats but you.
I got Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
That shirt too tight. You want to go back to I Really Mean It? I Really Mean It started. We could go back to the history, bro.
But you didn't even say that.
Too, while I was sitting there, I watched Jim and Shannon fight.
I'm still playing at a high level. You check my record, you heard? I'm still playing at a high level. I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
Jim then said that Shannon was merely using him to get views, which made Unc furious.
This is the biggest podcast you ever been on. Do you know what podcast you been on bigger than this one?
Hold on. We on topic. Hold on.
This is what I do. You see
Name a podcast you been on bigger than this one. When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
The moment Jim told Shannon Sharpe that he was better than Nez, Shannon Sharpe, who was ready to take Jim to the gym if he wanted to, abruptly changed his mind and went from podcast host to opponent. Shannon tested his body in addition to his bar.
Start buying baggy your clothes, big fella. You too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do that.
Since you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about working out. We talking about working out or strength. What we talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
since you got money.
If we talking about
put your money where your mouth feels.
So you talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out or strength? Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
Instead of just saying 50, he attempted to turn the conversation into a gym flex and challenge Shannon to a workout war to show that he was still in control and relevant in a new field. However, Jim was still interested in gym theatrics, and 50 had already made his move behind the scenes, with that distinctive moniker still hanging over him. The audience was swarming the comments section in the interim with the idea that AAA. Fans said, Shannon did what Fat Joe and Jada should have done. Just after former NFL Hall of Famer abruptly endorsed Nas Jones, "Thank you for bringing it up, you gullible Shanian." That's the real reason for their utter silence during that interview. Just when many believed the video was done being humorous, fans brought it back, so it got petty. 50 had been in the shadows, watching the circus unfold, and he wasn't laughing.
Yo, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. Even so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo, the thing used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pop,
Right.
even Cannabis, like Eminem. Used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
Out of contempt, after hearing about Jim's better-than-Nas remark, 50 Cent plucked a few receipts from his bottomless petty library, phoned Jim Individual 1, and repeated one of the most contentious statements in hip-hop history without even blinking. The internet went crazy over that specific caption because, you know, while Nas was remaining silent and Shannon was becoming swole, someone else was watching everything from the shadows. Not just a moniker, Individual 1 is a federal classification taken directly from a Tekashi 69 wiretap in 2018. Although Jim Jones was not identified in court, prosecutors played a phone call they said included him during Tekashi's trial for 9 Trey Bloods. According to reports, gang members were instructed to assault Tekashi for leaving the set when the call was being made. Jim was never charged and his voice was never officially confirmed in court, but the street bloggers and 50 didn't allow that to happen. Now that Jim is attempting to make his podcast more popular and get people to fight 50, he chose the ideal moment to remind everyone that he is still remembered on the streets. He mentioned, so that's why they aren't pulling him in, while reposting a meme from his Instagram history that he had earlier swiftly removed. Say it isn't. Jimmy, the Shade Room published an update on Tekashi's court action in 2019, a licensed courtroom. Reporter claims that 50 was forced to write about Tekashi's purported allusion to Jim Jones as a member of 9 Trey. Then the famous footage of 50 terrified people appeared.
Out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please don't tell them, man, because there's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
Words. I'm afraid for my life, I mean, Jimmy is gang. While Jimmy twitched, the internet laughed. However, 50 and Jim have a tense relationship that has lasted for years, and this episode with Nas provided him with the ideal pretext to begin harassing Jim once more. This is when things go wrong. Jim Jones and Jules Santana were invited to perform at a G-Unit concert in 2007 amid Dipset's internal strife. Cameron interpreted this as obvious disdain, and things became heated. Asterisk during Tekashi 69's federal indictment in 2019. Prosecutors aired a wiretapped phone call that identified Jim Jones as an individual, particularly since the group was already disbanding behind the scenes. Despite Jim never being found guilty, the phrase stuck and snitching suspicions were widespread online. Jim was quiet for a minute after viewing 50 postings covering every one of them. In a statement full of nostalgia for Dipset, he posted an old photo of Bird Gang. You keep lying, but why? I'll keep lying in Mail Matrix till it's in response to the comment, someone tell Shannon Sharpe, don't start ducking this challenge now. Jim from Backwards Free showed another exercise flex. When you speak, will you be a doer of your words? Or a podcaster? Due to the knot in my footwear. Champion, since you've already publicly challenged me, you might as well finish the job. In the Mail Matrix, the joke that 50 was creating a plot and living in a fantasy world was aimed at his old friend, who's currently doing more than 11 years in prison for racketeering. I don't want to do it in, commented Oochinko. While 50 was on the sidelines mocking, Jim was getting ready for a fight. Jim concluded by writing, if you're 40 years of age or older and you're arguing with me about Nas, you've already lost. My streams grow every time you all go viral because you fell for the ruse. I'm giving you older artists some marketing advice. Now, if you're stuck in the past and unhappy with the way things are going, then as I covered all the details in the caption, any musician from my era knows that I will circle them. This isn't a free game. Therefore, anyone who enters the booth, my dear, had better have some cash. We work in the field every day, regardless of your opinion. It is ridiculous that Nas remained silent during this entire ordeal while Jim continued to challenge, bait, and assert his greater influence. While fans are criticizing Jim, Ence's entry into the game would be a lyrical execution rather than a simple diss.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.